Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Karmic Gacha system in Modern Family World. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Quick update. The series What If Fusion deck user in a different Yu-Gi-Oh! GX will be going on hold soon, since we're nearly at the end of the story. So now, I need your help picking the next project for the channel. I'm currently deciding between these three fanfics. What if creating the strongest Strawhat crew by reading manga? What if Reincarnated in Bleach as Toshiro Hitsugaya? What if Reincarnated in Marvel as a gamer? Please vote in the poll and let me know which story you'd like to see next. I'll take the top pick and start working on that series next. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 276, Chaotic Thanksgiving Part 1. Edward POV. As the jet took to the sky, Frankie sat in front of me and poured herself a glass of whiskey, and myself some Sprite. Can I have some of that? I asked as my eyes glued to the whiskey bottle as I grabbed the drink from her. No, she replied curtly. I whined, you won't let me drink. You won't let me make more euphoria. Tell me about your date. She ignored me as she sipped her drink. I smiled and teased, I don't know you like to get the tea. You little gossip. Frankie was confused, I'm drinking alcohol. Taken aback for a bit, I sighed and told her all the deets about my date. Frankie fell into some deep thoughts while I muttered with self-depreciation, see. I told you it won't work. I kind of expected this to happen, Frankie said suddenly, which made me baffled. Then why did you make me do it? I asked in confusion. The room went silent for a while as Frankie finished her drink and I patiently waited for her answer. After a while, she explained, because you thought that you couldn't. That's really not what my conflict is about. I reacted with a dumbfounded expression. Frankie smirked and explained, isn't it, though? You think you need to close yourself off because no one will understand you or see past your status. But you've only had a couple of relationships, how can you know for sure that's true? How can you find the one if you stop trying? Just as in statistics, you need to widen your data group. I looked at Frankie with disbelief and spoke after a momentary silence, that's kinda sly. I knew I shouldn't let you watch Shark Tales. She said smugly, but you did. Now I know how to navigate your issues and offer you solid advice. Or dumb. We don't know the results yet. I said with a shrug. Frankie smiled and said, now if you don't mind, I'd like to get some shut-eye. It has been a long day at Greendale. Wait, before that, did you find the IT lady? I asked with intrigue. Frankie shook her head, no, it's an IT guy. There's no IT lady here. So her twin isn't here. That's two changes now. I thought while rubbing my chin. Seeing me in contemplation, Frankie asked curiously, what are you thinking about? Who's going to become the foreman for the whole construction? You know, we haven't hired anyone yet. I changed the topic quickly. Frankie nuzzled onto the seat and said, I'm too tired. I'll think about it tomorrow. All right then. Good night. Mother, her eyes widened a bit, but I continued with a smirk, figure. She exclaimed in exasperation and didn't bother to react as she got some rest. It would take around 3 hours for me to arrive in Wisconsin, so I decided to shut my eyes too. I walked to the storage and got some blankets. I handed Frankie one of them and went to lie down on the long couch instead of sleeping on the cozy chair. It may be because of the altitude, or maybe because of the gas leak, but I was feeling particularly sleepy tonight. I didn't even have to use my rest skill to go to sleep. However, my rest was cut short when I realized that I was transported into a white room. Wait, Afterlife Corp? I muttered with confusion as I saw Gong Shin's office in front of me. It was time for an afterlife session? Why wasn't I notified? Suddenly, Gong Shin entered the room too, through a red door that appeared from thin air. He saw me and asked in confusion, "Why are you here?" "How should I know?" I exclaimed in bewilderment. General POV. Entertain company building. Taylor, who cut her blonde hair short, sat across Pepper, who had an exhausted look on his face. She asked, "Can I release the song today?" Pepper snapped in frustration, "Girl, it's Thanksgiving. You definitely should not. And you should go home to be with your family." "No, my family is coming here," she replied casually before getting back to the topic. "Then, when can I release the music video?" Pepper thought about it with some difficulty. He glanced at Taylor and asked whisperingly, "Are you sure you don't want me to ask Edward? He's the one who knows about this stuff." "You're the CEO." Taylor retorted. "Have some backbone. You got this." Pepper racked his brain as he was filled with indecision. "You know what?" he said, which made Taylor perked up. "You can release it tomorrow. We'll just do what Edward usually does before he releases his songs." Taylor grumbled in frustration before saying, "I hate that you're probably right in this one." Even though she had planned her stealthy revenge and wanted to do everything on her own, she still wanted the song to succeed. Pepper stood up from the couch, grabbed Taylor's hand to help her stand up from the chair and ushered her out of his office. "Now, go home." "I want to go home too. It's Thanksgiving, and I have given every employee a day off. That includes me." Taylor grabbed the doorframe before Pepper could push her out of the office. "Wait. Make sure not to tell him before the music video is released." "I got it. You already repeated that 1,000 times." Pepper pushed Taylor out before he locked the door. "Teenagers!" he exclaimed in frustration before whispering, "She really thought that we could hide it from him?" He even gave the director some advice about the music video. "Well, she'll be extra mad if she knew about this, so I'll just keep that bit to myself." Edward POV. As I sat in front of Gongshin, I asked, "So why is the session closed again?" An eldritch entity had come to visit, so we evacuated everyone and closed all sessions. Without sufficient protections, the soul will explode as soon as they gazed upon him. "I guess you came here the second he left, so I missed your presence." "Who? Cthulhu?" I asked jokingly. Gongshin was startled for a bit before he asked, "Anyway, since you're here, do you want to come and see my new machine or do you want to go back now?" Seeing his avoidance, I fell into a deep shock. Wait, is it really Cthulhu? Those aren't fictional? Do you want to or not? He asked again. Where is that messenger anyway? Shouldn't he already notify you about the afterlife session being postponed? He waved his arm and a white raven suddenly appeared inside the room. It was flapping his wings tiredly, with its tongue hanging out, before it fell lifelessly to the desk. Gongshin grabbed the bird with two hands and asked with concern, "What were you doing?" The bird replied while huffing its breath, "I fly, across the land, target is not, at his house." My eyes lit up and I said, "Oh yeah, I was in Colorado." "Tell me, next time," the bird said annoyedly before he pretended to faint. Gongshin placed him down on the desk gently before saying, "So, you want to check it out?" "Sure," I replied casually. The bird whispered cursingly, "You heartless monsters." Gongshin directed me to a new gacha session room. It's something I thought of called Double or Nothing. So, the gist is that, after you roll one prize, the probability that you will get another prize from the same person you got the original one will be raised to 50%. If you lose, you'll lose the original one too. Ah, I get it, I nodded my head in understanding as I touched the mechanism on the machine. It's a bingo machine? I asked. Yes. You'll get a paper with 25 slots for numbers and you need to get a bingo. Sooner you get it, the higher the quality of the roll will be. I think I get it. Can I use it now? I asked. He turned to me and said, "Why not? Since this is an unofficial session, you don't even have to reset your karmic points. I'll just use the ones from your storage." Great. Let's do it. Gongshin taught me to use the machine, and I pressed the green button on the panel. A piece of paper printed out from the machine with my name on it, and I get ready for bingo. Filling the 5x5 columns randomly, I asked him, so, if I get 5 numbers in a straight line, then it's bingo, right? Does it work diagonally? Yeah, it works. He replied as he rolled the bingo machine. A ball with the number rolled out of the machine, and he announced, 13. By the way, you'll have to pay 1,000 karma per ball. I don't really mind it. Great. I got the center one, I said excitedly as I scratched my number on the paper. After 10 calls, I finally got a diagonal bingo. The paper morphed into a purple ball that labeled, Purple Quality Gacha, Consumables No Circle Transmutation, Full Metal Alchemist, Edward Elric. Consumables again? He looked at me with suspicions. I was also confused. Don't look at me, it's your machine. He sighed before he said excitedly, double or nothing? Double. I replied with excitement. Another piece of paper printed out of the machine, and he rolled the bingo numbers. It took me 12 tries to get a bingo and I received a white quality gacha. White quality, memory, Chimera Dog, Edward Elric. No. No. I stood up in shock and I tried to give back the prize to Gongshin. I don't want this memory. Damn. This one is quite bad. He reluctantly took the prize from me and said, you want another double or nothing? Then you will lose everything. Yes. Definitely. Even though I was reluctant to part way with the transmutation circle, making sure that I would never experience this memory was the obvious choice. Gongshin said casually while spinning the ball, alright, this time, the probability will lessen to 25%. That works better for me. I replied as I scratched the numbers off the paper. Within 7 balls, I managed to get a bingo, and unfortunately, I received something from Alphonse Elric, which made my entire prizes disappear. Good luck next time, Gongshin said with a smirk. I sighed in relief and said, thank God. Alright, next. You want to continue? Okay then. He didn't expect me to be absorbed in the game, but I did. In the next few bingo games, I lost the double or nothing game 3 times, and only won once. Green quality, skill, design planning, Ted Mosby. Purple quality, talent, storytelling, Ted Mosby. Gongshin teased, maybe you'll need 9 seasons to tell the story of how you met your kid's mother too. I smirked and said, I may even win some awards. Who knows? Ted must be great at telling his stories if it can run for 9 seasons without cancellation. We continued the games for a while, and I only won 3 more times even though I had played 11 games. Sensing that my luck in this game wasn't very good, I decided to pause the game for a minute. Gold quality, talent, mesmerizing eyes, Gojo Satoru. Purple quality, talent, angering people, Gojo Satoru. Gold quality, skill, brush strokes, Bob Ross. Gold quality, skill, color, Bob Ross. Green quality, consumables, minor bone regeneration, Lucille, the Great Cleric. Red quality, consumables, minor heal, Lucille. Will my eyes color change? I asked in confusion. Gongshin replied, I don't think so. It'll just look very pretty after this. Can you explain to me about the healing items? I asked hesitantly. Maybe it can heal a gunshot. That's it. It won't regenerate organs. He replied with a sympathetic look on his face. But, that bone regeneration, you can cast it on your cat for her to get her claws back. I smiled in satisfaction and said, what shall I do with the mechanical claw design I have made for him? Gongshin chuckled without replying. I thought about it for a while and asked him, how long has the time passed in the real world? Only an hour. Gongshin checked his watch. I'll play one last time before I go back, I declared. In the last roll, I actually got a gold quality memory from an unknown guy. Who is he? I asked Gongshin. He mused as he saw the ball and replied, just a guy, living in the same universe as your previous self. My eyes lit up, really? Gold quality. Memory, Marvel Cinematic Universe Phase 4 and 5, incomplete, W. Lana. Double or nothing? Gong Shin asked. Double it. I replied confidently. Within only 6 rolls, I managed to get another bingo on the paper. My heart palpitated quickly as the paper morphed into a ball. Gold quality, memory, 2023 entertainment landscape, W. Lana. Yes. I raised my hand in celebration as I stood up from my seat. I died in June 2022, so if the memory was from my previous universe, then I had something to look forward to. Marvel projects were usually great, although the quality declined a bit before I left, but I'm sure that they had quickly fixed the problem and returned with quality shows, right? I wasn't clear about the entertainment landscape, so I ignored it for now. Gongshin smiled as he saw my excited expression and said, "Congratulations. Double or nothing? I'll just stop here," I said non-committedly as I smiled. Waving goodbye to the agent, I left the afterlife session and returned to my mortal plane, feeling satisfied about today's session. Arriving at Wisconsin, my dad picked me up and met with Frankie at the airport. Only my dad came as it was 3 a.m., and my cousins were all sleeping. Frankie and my dad both looked at me with confusion after I exited the jet. "What?" I grunted with a playful tone, rubbing my sore forehead at the same time. My dad looked at me and said, "When did your eyes change? Did you wear contact lenses?" Frankie asked. "When?" My head was still hurting, so I stopped the questioning. "Can we do this later on? I'm still sleepy." My dad and Frankie scrutinized my face before both of them gave up and turned to each other. My dad used an affectionate tone to ask Frankie, "Are you sure you don't want to come to my place for Thanksgiving? My mom is eager to meet you." I feel bad that I have to squash her hope, but I already promised my family to be there. Frankie replied. "That's too bad," my dad said as he held her hand. While they were flirting, I was struggling with my eyes. Gojo Satoru eyes was referred to as the 6 eyes, an innate gift rarely inherited within the Gojo clan. They are a non-standard jujitsu trait manifesting as a pair of bright blue eyes that grant a bearer extrasensory perception of cursed energy. However, I don't have any cursed energy, so the change wasn't obvious for me, other than making my perception ability stronger. The overload of sensory input made me squint my eyes and covered it up from any source of light with my palm. My dad and Frankie noticed my struggle and stopped their conversation. Frankie turned towards me and asked worriedly, "Edward, are you okay?" "Yeah, my eyes are just sensitive from the change," I replied. My dad nodded in understanding and said, "Come on, you can continue sleeping in the car." I obediently let my dad pull my hand and led me to the vehicle before he drove us to my grandparents' ranch. Even in that 1-hour drive, my eyes hadn't adapted to the change yet. I had to cover up my eyes with a black cloth temporarily in order to walk into the house. "Are you sure you don't want to go to the doctor?" my dad asked with concern as he carried my bags into the house. I smirked and said, "Ever wonder if this is a plot for me not to carry my luggage myself?" He scowled a bit before saying, "Go to sleep, Edward." Suddenly, my grandpa called out for me from my behind. As the morning started early in the ranch, he was already up and wanted to go to the stables to milk the cows. He hugged me and stopped when he saw my face. "Wait. What happened to your eyes?" My dad spoke for me. He said that it's too sensitive. It could be from jet lag. He traveled quite a few times in 2 days. Grandpa nodded in understanding and said, "I guess I can spare you from getting our milk for breakfast. Why don't you go to your room and sleep it off?" "I will." "Where's Vader and Ace?" I asked curiously. My grandpa replied, "The cat is sleeping with the girls. Ace is guarding the ranch. Wait, here he is." The Black Panther ran to the house in excitement and lunged toward me. As I couldn't prepare myself for it, I fell down on the floor, which made both my grandpa and my dad worried. Ace nuzzled his face towards me in excitement, which made me burst into laughter. "I miss you, too, big girl," I said as I affectionately patted her head. It took me a while to convince the panther to let me go. My dad led me into the room and left me at the door as I told him that I could manage on my own. I still remembered what the room looked like, so it wasn't that hard to navigate. I found the bed in no time and sat on the edge of the bed, unbuttoning my shirt before taking it off to go to sleep. As I laid down on the bed, I suddenly sensed there was something amiss there. My hand rummaged the sides of the bed when I suddenly touched something warm and soft. What is this? I muttered in confusion as I grabbed the squishy thing for a bit. Maggie, who was sleeping soundly in my bed, suddenly woke up and her face turned tomato red. That's... Her voice caught me off guard. I was shocked when she continued, "That's my boobs." "Oh," I exclaimed casually before moving my hand away and turned sideways, with my back against her. Then, I went to sleep. Maggie was speechless for a second before she sat up from the bed and picked up a pillow, gripping the edges strongly. "You pervert!" She pushed the pillow on my face, trying to suffocate me. Chapter 277, Chaotic Thanksgiving Part 2. Edward POV. Although it was late fall, in Wisconsin, it could be said that it was early winter. The chill in the air was biting, with temperatures dipping well below freezing. A light dusting of snow covered the ground, crunching underfoot as people stepped on it. Bundling up inside the blanket in my room, I was woken up by a smooch on my cheek as I struggled with the temperature. My Californian lifestyle didn't really do well in the cold, wintry Wisconsin. With a sniffle, I woke up to the sight of Vader licking and nudging my face with hers. Good timing. Smiling widely, I grabbed her and used her as a warm heat pack before falling to sleep again. Vader was confused at first, but she then lay down obediently on my torso. Before I truly dozed off, I casted the healing spell on Vader while she was purring in my embrace. Meow. Vader was confused when she saw a green glow around her. As it disappeared, she forgot all about it and went to sleep. Half an hour later, as I squirmed to get up from the bed, her pupils dilated when she realized that she could feel something in her paws again. Meow. She extended her claws hurriedly, and as she was laying on top of me, the claws digged into my flesh. Ouch. I yelped as I was immediately woken up by the pain. Lifting my head slightly, I looked at the excited Vader as she played with her claws, meowing relentlessly at me to make me look at it. I chuckled and patted her head, scratching it at the same time. She purred affectionately, and I said, "Good for you, huh, Vady? You finally have your claws back." Sensing that I had something to do with it, she rubbed her face on mine, purring as she showed her gratitude to me. After a while I finally left the bed. In the toilet, I was relieved when I saw that my eyes didn't change much, although the emerald green color became more prominent. The eyes sparkled with an inner luminescence, almost glowing from within. Subtle shifts in lighting would cause the eyes to transform, from deep forest green to brilliant jade. Damn Gojo-san. It is mesmerizing. I muttered with disbelief as I scrutinized the changes. People will think I'm wearing contact lenses. I brushed my teeth and washed my face before going to the living room after. Expecting to see the entire family there, I was surprised to see only Amy and my grandmother working in the kitchen to cook the Thanksgiving meal. Look who finally decided to finally wake up. Amy greeted me with a disdainful look on her face. Double finally? I muttered with confusion as I walked to my grandma, glancing at Amy as I went past her. She flinched in embarrassment and pointed her spatula at me. I misspoke. So what? Ignoring her, I asked my grandma, "Gram, do you know where my luggage is?" Amy gasped in disbelief, and stomped her feet in frustration. My grandma looked up from basting her turkey and became concerned when she saw me. She placed her warm hand on my cheek and said, "Why are you so clammy?" Someone turned off the heater in my room. I tattled to my grandma while hugging my arms, shivering. My grandma quickly ordered Amy, "Go and grab a thick jacket for him." Grandma! He can do it himself. Amy was flabbergasted, but Grandma was stern. "Go. Now." Ugh. Amy groaned before doing what she was told. My grandma led me to the couch, placed a blanket on top of me, and said, "My poor boy, you must have been so cold and hungry." Why don't Grandma make you some pancakes and a cup of hot chocolate? I smiled and said childishly, "Thank you, Grandma." She broke into a smile and went to the kitchen with spry steps. Amy came back and rudely threw a jacket on my face. It hung up there for a while. Amy was confused and she took the jacket off and gave it to me carefully. As I wore it, I asked, "Where's everyone else?" My nose suddenly felt itchy, and I shivered again. Worried, Amy asked as tried to check on my fever, "Are you catching a fever?" Achoo! I suddenly sneezed. The droplet missiles flew straight to Amy's face, which made her flinch in disgust. "Ah! You just sneezed on me." "Sorry," I said as I wiped my nose with a tissue I grabbed from a box nearby. "I don't think I'm catching a fever though. That will be catastrophical. I have to start the movie shoot on Sunday." I added, however, Amy was gone by the time I finished wiping my nose. She had run straight to the toilet to clean herself up. "Wait. Amy, where are the others?" I shouted. General POV. It was almost Thanksgiving dinner, and the whole family had gathered together at the long dining table. At the head of the table sat Grandpa Sam, with Aunt May and Uncle Jim on one side. On the other side were Maggie, Uncle Aaron, and Ted, with an empty seat on both ends. Uncle Aaron has a bandage on his cheek, and he was sending off dissatisfied aura to the table. He glared at Ted, but Ted was ignoring him. The table was laden with all the traditional Thanksgiving fare. A golden brown roasted turkey took pride of place in the center, its crispy skin glistening. Grandma Jules had slaved away in the kitchen for an entire day to prepare it. Surrounding it were heaping bowls of fluffy mashed potatoes, creamy green bean casserole, and sweet candied yams. Cranberry sauce in a cut crystal bowl, a platter of homemade dinner rolls sat between a gravy boat and a crystal decanter of red wine. Just then, Grandma Jules came back to the dinner table and said, "He has a 102 fever. 39 Celsius, maybe we should take him to the hospital." Maggie flinched guiltily as she heard it. Ted sighed and said, "How in the hell did the heater in his room turn off?" Maggie's ears felt hot, and she tried to change the subject. "By the way, Grandma, that turkey looks delicious." Amy said casually, "Maggie's the one who turned off the heater. She hid Edward's bag too. It's in the stables." Margaret Genevieve Grant. May widened her eyes and called Maggie's full name angrily. Maggie's eyes shook and she stood up halfway subconsciously, almost running away from the dinner table. She defended herself with a shaky voice, "I don't know, he's going to get a fever. It was a prank. It's a cruel prank. You need to apologize to Edward right away." Aunt May scolded. Uncle Jim quickly tries to disarm the argument. "May, come on. It's Thanksgiving." Maggie's voice broke and she said tearily, "You don't even know anything, but you're asking me to apologize." Ted stopped the argument by defending Maggie. "May, she might just wants to play with Ed. They pranked each other all the time. He's already a bit sick from the flight. I don't think it's Maggie's fault that he has a fever." Maggie's teary eyes glared at her mother angrily. May sighed and still scolded her, "You need to get Ed's bag back from the stables after we eat. It's really pitiful for him. You know he came back even with his busy work just to be with all of us." Amy grinned as she met Maggie's eyes, which made Maggie spat venomously, "You just need to open your mouth and get me into trouble. I fucking hate you." Amy was taken aback, and the rest of the family exclaimed in dissonant voices. "That's it. You're grounded." May slammed the table and shouted to Maggie. Maggie left the dinner table with a huff, tearing up as she ran. Amy hesitated on whether to follow her, but she missed the opportunity to decide. "Amy, why don't you help Grandma find some medicine for Ed?" Grandma Jules said in a warm tone before walking away with Amy. Grandpa Ron finally chimed in. "It's from the snow. There's a light drizzle this morning. Maybe that's why." "Enough about that, Aaron, mind explaining how you get the bruise? And why are you glaring at your younger brother like he done kill your wife?" "'Cause he's being a bitch, that's what," Aaron said contemptuously. Ted smiled slightly and said, "This bitch just made you eat mud this morning. You wanna go?" Aaron slapped the table and stood up abruptly. Grandpa Sam said sternly, "Sit down. And don't you dare fight like this in front of your mother. Especially since she had a hard day making the dishes for us." Aaron calmed down, and he sat back down. Sam asked again, "So, what did you do that Ted decided to hit your face? Or, should I hear the details from him?" Aaron was silent, so Grandpa Sam gave up and looked at Ted. Ted replied casually, "He wants to propose to his girlfriend." Everyone gasped in surprise and looked at Aaron disdainfully. Uncle Jim asked in confusion, "Really? You just met her?" "Yeah. But I love her." Aaron turned to Jim and spoke with an infatuated expression. Ted groaned and rubbed his face in exasperation. "She doesn't have any respect for you or what you do. I can't believe you're this blind." My dad scolded. "Why did you say that? She likes me too. And she treats me really well." Aaron snapped back. "I think you're just jealous of me." He added. "Jealous of what? That you don't have an ounce of self-respect?" Ted snapped back. Grandpa Sam asked Ted, "Why did you say she doesn't respect him?" "He told me that she wants him to search for a real job." Ted replied and added, "An office job." Grandpa Sam's opinion on Aaron's girlfriend was lowered for a bit. "She doesn't think that being a rancher is a good thing?" Aaron scratched his head in embarrassment and said, "That she might not really understand what we're doing here. I can explain it to her. I'm sure she'll open her mind later on." As Maggie arrived at the stables, she was horrified to find Edward's luggage cracked open, with his belongings strewn across the straw and muddied, and even chewed on by the horses. "Oh my God!" she exclaimed in bewilderment as she rushed to save the clothes. However, it was too late. "He's going to kill me for sure," she exclaimed fearfully as she collected Edward's stuff before dragging it back to the house. "This is not the revenge I wanted," she whispered in a pitiful manner. Edward POV. My mind felt a bit hazy, however, I was still conscious enough to hear the argument coming from outside of my room. Forcing myself to get out of bed, I rummaged my sling bag with my laptop in it, and took out a black pill. It was one of the pill recipes in the Alchemist book, which would help me manage my fever quickly. I swallowed the marble-size pill without any drink. I had to hit my chest with my fist because it was stuck on my throat. However, I managed to pass it down safely. Without even waiting for it to act up, I wore a triple layer of jacket, more cold protection, and went outside to join my family at the dinner table. As I was inching towards them, I heard the conversation between my dad and my uncle. Uncle Aaron was agitated. "When you know, you know." My dad snapped back, "Just like you did with your ex-wife? How did that turn out?" "Hey! Melissa is not that devil. She's kind and affectionate, and that's it? That's your big argument to propose to her? She's kind, affectionate, and Aunt May commented mockingly. "I'm sorry, but didn't your husband knock you up 2 months into your relationship?" Uncle Aaron retorted back to Aunt May. Uncle Jim was in disbelief and said, "Why did I catch the heat too?" I was silent the whole time. Uncle Aaron apologized quickly to Uncle Jim, "Sorry. You guys come in packages." Aunt May ignored Uncle Aaron as she saw my figure. "Edward. Hi. Long time no see." She greeted me cheerily with a huge smile on her face. Uncle Aaron also smiled and greeted me, "Ed. Finally. You'll definitely be on my side. I heard the arguments, and I'm definitely not on your side." I commented casually before I sat next to my dad. "Where's the others?" I asked curiously. My grandpa looked at me and said, "Ed, don't push yourself. You should go rest." "Grandpa. I'm starving. Let me eat," I said jokingly, which eased up the mood around the dining table. Turning to my uncle, I asked, "Is this Melissa the same girl you slept with after you received my guidance? The one that looks like Marissa Tomei?" "Ed. You were the one who caused this? My aunt asked with disbelief. Even my dad has the same look as her as he turned towards me. My Uncle Jim snickered and said, "Can you teach me too?" His wife glared at him, which made him quickly shut up. I chuckled and said, "Why don't you invite her to Thanksgiving dinner with us? Then, maybe, my dad and Aunt May could get to know her? Right now, they never really met her, so they don't know why you're acting this way." My uncle's eyes lit up and he stood up immediately. "That's right. I should invite her here." My grandpa advised hurriedly before Uncle Aaron could go away. "Wait. I have no problem if you want to invite her, but ask your mother first." "Okay, I will." Uncle Aaron nodded before he went to find my grandma. He bumped into Maggie as he walked away, and saw the condition of my luggage. "What did you do?" he asked with extreme shock. Everyone turned to Maggie following Uncle Aaron's outburst. My aunt widened her eyes in horror as she saw the condition of the luggage, and Maggie tracking mud into the house while pulling the luggage with her. She saw me and teared up. "Ed. I'm sorry. I didn't expect this to happen." My eyes kept moving between the luggage and Maggie's face as I processed the whole thing. I asked worriedly, "Was any of it saved?" Maggie's voice cracked as she replied, "No." I slowly stood up from the chair and walked to my luggage. Maggie waited for my reaction anxiously. The table became empty as everyone went to check out the luggage's condition. My grandma and Amy also returned at the moment, and were surprised to see the sight too. "Maggie, what did you do?" Amy asked accusatively. "I didn't do anything. It was the horses." Maggie defended herself hurriedly. My head hurts too much for me to even care about my lost clothing right now. I turned to Maggie and whispered, "You realize I own you from now on, right?" Fortunately, I didn't keep any important stuff inside the luggage, only articles of clothes. Although there were some branded shirts in there, I didn't really care much as the brands would fight a war with one another to send me another batch of clothes. Maggie was startled and she bit her lips, eyes full of tears as she accepted her fate. "Tomorrow, on Black Friday, you're going to go to the mall and replace all of the clothes. I gave my first order. Before that happens, you're going to do every single thing I ask you to do, no excuses." "But..." "No excuses." "Fine." She groaned in exasperation. I smiled in return and said, "So, now that everyone's here, let's eat." My stomach grumbled as I was feeling quite hungry, and I walked to the dining table again casually. "Ed, you send your uncle away." My dad chimed in after everyone followed suit and sat down on the table again. "Fuck." I cursed whisperingly as I watched the turkey getting colder and colder. Half an hour later, my uncle finally returned with his girlfriend. Confused by the sudden invite, she found herself being swept away by my uncle's momentum, and suddenly, she was already here at the ranch. "Everyone. Meet Melissa." My uncle introduced her. I didn't really care about the whole thing, and waited for Grandpa to finish carving the turkey. I spent the first 15 minutes of the Thanksgiving dinner just gorging myself with the food before I joined in the conversation. Well, no one really talked, so I didn't really miss anything. All that was said was just some perfunctory remarks like, "Is the food to your liking?" or "Where are you from?" "So Melissa, you're a teacher?" Aunt May was slowly trying to get into the topic, but I interjected and asked directly, "Hi miss, we're all kinda curious about why you told my uncle to search for another job." "Ed." My grandma tried to shut me up by pushing some yams into my mouth. But I swallowed them within 1 second. The curly short-haired brunette was taken aback and glanced at my uncle with disbelief. She stammered for a bit before she had a determined glint in her eyes. "I just think that he can do much better than being just a ranch hand." "Wait everyone. Don't react yet." I interjected quickly, which halted my family's reactions. I smiled and asked her, "What do you mean you can do better? You can speak honestly. And Uncle Aaron, keep your mouth shut." Her eyes shook for a bit before she replied to me, "I mean, he's already 50. And he still doesn't have his own place, I nodded in understanding and supported her point of view. That is a valid point. He's 50 and still living with his parents. It must be hard for you to show him off to others. That's right. She replied sincerely, without thinking much. My grandparents, aunt, and my dad realized that too, and their expressions softened. She added without thinking much, I mean, if this relationship wants to go somewhere, he needs to at least get his own place. My grandpa suddenly chimed in, he has his own place. It's 2 miles away from here. Wait. He does? You told me you live on the ranch. Melissa looked at Uncle Aaron with disbelief. He looked at me and asked whisperingly, can I speak now? You can. I whispered back. I am living on the ranch. Uncle Aaron replied to Melissa. Amy chimed in, the land is pretty big. We have multiple houses here. Even a guest resort. Oh. I didn't know that. Melissa replied with disbelief. But, she tried to say something else, but stopped herself midway. Raising one of my eyebrows, I turned to Uncle Aaron and asked, did you give her the impression that you were poor or something? No. I don't think I did. Uncle Aaron replied with confusion. Still confused, Melissa asked Uncle Aaron, didn't you tell me that you were struggling to make ends meet? Everyone was confused and turned to Uncle Aaron, expecting an explanation. But he was confused too. When did I say that? Oh, that's right. I did say something similar. I said, I have to work hard at the end of the month. Is that it? He finally figured it out. Grandpa Sam chuckled and said, is this right before the harvest time? Everyone is busy around harvest time. Melissa lowered her head bashfully, embarrassed by her presumptuous thoughts. My dad chuckled and teased his brother, how in the world did you come to the proposal conclusion when this just proved that you're not at the stage yet? I nodded to my dad's words before turning to him and said, by the way Dad, you and Frankie are way past that stage. We're talking about your uncle now. He stopped me quickly. Melissa was baffled when she heard that Uncle Aaron wanted to propose to her. Why did you already think about that? It's too soon. She asked anxiously. Suddenly, she remembered something, is this because I let you put it in the butt? Everyone spat what they were eating except for me. I chuckled and said, the mystery of why he's so smitten is finally solved. Chapter 278, Chaotic Thanksgiving Part 3, Final. Edward POV. After the Thanksgiving meal, all of the family members gathered in the living room to watch football while digesting the food. Maggie. I called out and gestured at Maggie to massage my shoulders. She sighed and sat next to me, getting Amy to move away as she squeezed herself into the double cedar couch, and massaged my neck badly. With my eyes condition getting cleared up by my dad, Maggie realized that she had been presumptuous in punishing me for something that was an accident. A strong feeling of guilt gnawed into her heart as she touched my skin, feeling the warm temperature of the fever. Dissatisfied by her lack of skills, I gestured my hand into a ball, and moved it up and down. Maggie and Amy widened their eyes in disbelief, and Maggie's face flushed red. She quickly shook her head, but I gestured again. I'm not going to, give you a happy ending. She whispered with an angry tone. Taken aback, I corrected her, I'm asking you to hit my shoulders. What the hell are you thinking about? Oh. She widened her eyes and became frustrated. She couldn't even meet my eyes afterward. Amy felt glad that she didn't say anything and joined in to tease Maggie, this proved that you're the pervert in this house. Not him. Shut up. I'm still mad at you too. Maggie admonished Amy. Feeling frustrated by Maggie's lack of skills, I stood up from the couch and said to my family members, I'll go to bed now. My grandmother quickly stood up, held my hand, and checked my forehead at the same time, your fever has gone down a lot. I smiled and said, your cooking must have cured me. A grandmother's love must be the cure to all diseases in the world. Amy and Maggie rolled her eyes at my word. Amy kicked my leg slightly and scolded, kiss ass. My grandma was flattered and said, such a sweet boy. But you still have to take your medicine. What do you want to eat tomorrow? Just tell me, I'll cook anything you want.
Grandma, I'll love everything you make, I said innocently again. Maggie made a revolting sound, and Amy gave a thumbs down while booing me. Grandma smiled widely and told Maggie, bring Ed to his room.
I'm going to make a special drink for him, with chocolate and marshmallow.
Amy protested, I want a special drink too.
I told her, go stand in the snow for 5 hours and catch a fever, then you can drink it.
Ugh.
She groaned in dissatisfaction, crossed her arms and leaned back on the couch.
After getting to my room, I laid down on the bed instantly. What are you doing? I asked Maggie with a quizzical expression. Maggie was confused. What? Go bring me more blankets. And grab my laptop for me too, I ordered.
She rolled her eyes and begrudgingly did it. Instead of giving me the bag, she took out my laptop from it, even connected the charger for me. As I got comfortable on the bed, she placed multiple pillows on my back, propping me to sit up.
Why are you contacting people instead of resting? She asked.
I wiped my nose with a tissue and said, if I can't leverage my sickness to succeed in a negotiation, then I'll just be sick for nothing.
Maggie looked at me in disbelief and retorted, that's not what being sick is for. That'll be all for now, Squire,
I said before I waved dismissively at her.
Annoyed, she scolded, that's it? I did all of that for you, and there's not even a thank you? Gucci is $1,000, Levi's is $750, Armani $200, Nike sneakers $400 each. Before I could finish listing out all of the items I had lost, Maggie had run away from the room. I chuckled and mumbled, well, I didn't buy them myself though. DRRR DRRR DRRR. The call rang for some time, but no one was answering it.
Figuring out that the other party wasn't available, I called his granddaughter by her phone.
Within 10 seconds, Haley picked up the call. Hi Ed.
She greeted me with a strained voice.
All of us just ate. I'm so full right now. Grab your laptop. I chuckled as I asked. I'm going to video call you. 2 minutes later, the call was finally connected. Everyone greeted me as they saw me.
Haley placed me on the coffee table at the living room in Jay's house, where they all gathered for Thanksgiving today. She turned the laptop for a moment.
Hi Edward. The entire extended family greeted me. Finally, she stopped moving the camera.
Haley was at the center of the screen, sitting next to her were Alex and Luke. Phil and Claire stopped behind the couch and joined in the call.
Did you have a great Thanksgiving, Ed? Why are you already in bed? Claire asked teasingly.
With a sniffle, I said, oh, unfortunately I got a fever, so I can't enjoy it too much.
Ah. That's awful. The girls exclaimed with a sympathetic frown.
I blew into a tissue even though my nose wasn't runny, and made it seem like my fever was worse than it actually was.
Haley asked with concern, did you eat your medicine yet?
Alex added, take both medicine for flu and for fever.
I have already eaten it. Thank you guys for worrying about me,
I said with a tired smile.
Did you miss Thanksgiving dinner? Claire asked with an apologetic expression. Oh no. I did eat the turkey, I replied. But the mood is pretty weird. My dad and my uncle had a fight. My uncle even got bruised up. They had already made up for it. Phil was curious, why did they fight? I shook my head and pretended to be confused, I'm not clear about it.
Apparently my uncle wants to propose to his girlfriend of 2 months, and it makes my dad mad or something cause he found out that my uncle only was doing it because she let him use the back door of her house?
Huh? Everyone was confused by my wording.
Ed, are you sure that's why?
Phil asked in confusion. Mitchell and Cam immediately got it. Mitchell exclaimed, "OHHH."
They were. As everyone was looking at him, he immediately stopped his sentence.
They were what? Alex asked in confusion. Why does using her house's back door make him want to marry her? Luke asked.
Claire also realized it and stammered flusteredly, oh no.
Ed.
why did you buy a college? She tried to change the topic, but Haley spoke.
Dad? What is it?
You used the back door all the time.
Claire was flabbergasted. What? No. Not all the time. Cam whistled from afar. Oh, so sometimes. Claire glared at Cam and warned him, don't. They don't understand it. Luke shouted to Jay, Grandpa.
Did you use the back door too? Jay, who just joined in the conversation, replied in ignorance, I used the back door, the side door, the front door. I paid for the doors. I'll use the doors.
Gloria giggled and backed Jay up, also didn't realize the subtext behind it, yes.
Every night he'll even check on the doors to see which one is open.
Cam whispered to Mitchell, your family is more raunchy than I thought. Gloria. Claire immediately went to Gloria and Jay and whispered to her about the context. Gloria blushed and her mind blanked out. What? Oh geez. Jay groaned in frustration and walked to the screen. He admonished me, there's no way you will not know what a backdoor is. You did that on purpose. Huh? I pretended to be confused again. What is it? I really don't get it.
Haley whispered to Jay, Grandpa, he has a fever. Jay widened his eyes slightly, and he thought that I was ignorant about it because my mind wasn't working well because I was sick.
Oh! He exclaimed flatly. Alex asked, what is a backdoor? I feel like there's a hidden meaning behind it now. Haley and Luke nodded, yeah. Us too. Manny turned to Gloria, expecting an answer too. Ed. Did you watch the football game? Jay changed the topic immediately.
Or continue our discussion about the college construction.
Oh right. Now that I think about it, it'll be unfair for me to ask you to become the head foreman. You live in California. The project is in Colorado. Even though you're the only person with integrity and artistic ability that I believe in, I can't do that to you. I said with an apologetic tone. Who's the person with artistic ability again? Cam interjected in dissatisfaction. Jay is. He's an artist with his work. Otherwise, how did you think Pritchett's Closet became the #1 leading closet brand in the country? I said to butter Jay's up. He smiled and said, that's kind Ed. But I'm still not going to become your head foreman. I could become a consultant, but I'm definitely not flying there.
I grinned as I got what I wanted. Consultant is it?
Great. I'll draft up the contract.
Jay realized that he had fallen into the trap, damn it. Claire interjected while giggling at her father's misery, Ed.
Are you still working even though it's a holiday, and you're sick? Haley grumbled and admonished me, you should stay with your family. I groaned and said, what's that? The signal isn't that great. We're using your network. There's no way the signal is bad. Alex interjected teasingly. I can't hear you. I pretended to cough heavily and said, I need to rest. Goodbye everyone. Then, I cut the call immediately.
Robin, pull up the 3D render of the college.
I ordered.
Suddenly, I realized that I didn't have the pen I wanted, and my bag was quite far from the bed.
Maggie. I called.
Maggie begrudgingly stomped her feet into the room a minute later. I pointed at my bag, and she rolled her eyes as she picked it up and brought it to me. I said casually, you know this can actually be avoided if you just bring me the bag in the first place.
What are you doing, are you working? Seriously.
She scolded in a loud tone, even wanting to snatch the laptop from me. I glared at her as I picked my laptop up, moving it away from her reach.
Did you forget you're my bitch, I mean slave, let's go with maid?
I narrowed my eyes at her, my words made her gasp as she took offense.
Remember your place, or else I'm getting the whip. That's really inappropriate. She grumbled. Then, she got curious as I took out my digital pen. What are you doing?
She asked again, this time with curiosity instead of judgment.
I'm fixing the flaws of the schools based on its blueprints. I said casually. As my hand moved swiftly and smoothly, sketching on the screen, Maggie became intrigued.
She sat next to me, crossing her legs and leaning forward as she peeked on the screen.
The design skill I got from Ted Mosby worked quite well.
However, I didn't think that this Ted Mosby is the same one from the show.
The skill level was too high.
It was high enough for me to imagine him as a 50-years-old professor who kept upgrading his skills in architectural designs. While I was doing my work, Amy walked into the room too.
"What are you guys doing?" Amy asked in confusion. "What are you doing?" Maggie turned back the question to her. Amy replied, "Grandma asked me to check if Ed is sleeping yet." "He's not sleeping.
And I don't think anyone can make him go to bed,"
Maggie said with a smirk. Amy sat on the opposite side of Maggie and looked at the laptop. "You're drawing, Ma, this is the college you just bought?" I turned to her in confusion and asked, "I've been meaning to ask this question, how in the world did you know?" "It's on the news, and it's trending on social media. People said you're an eccentric kid who just has too much money,"
Amy explained as she slowly wrapped a blanket on her feet. As I looked at her weirdly, she shrugged and said, "My leg is cold."
"So did you really buy a college? For how much?" "Actually, it was free," I replied with a smirk. "Robin, show the hidden department."
I ordered, and the screen turned into the hidden room with the servers I had found the dead Russell Borkert in. He was animated in there too, so I quickly said, "Robin, remove the corpse."
"Corpse?" Amy and Maggie were confused.
Then, I told them about the treasure hunting adventure I had in that college. Amy's eyes glittered in excitement, but Maggie's was looking at me weirdly.
"So you went treasure hunting and became this, VD's heir?" Maggie asked in confusion. "Vice Dean. Never simplify that to VD. Never simplify anything to VD," I told her sternly. Amy was curious, "What is VD?"
"I saw that in Friends TV show, but I don't remember it."
"Google it yourself," I replied with disbelief. Maggie waved her hand dismissively. "Never mind the treasure hunting, you said you went on a date later on?" With a disdainful look on my face, I rebuked Maggie, "That's what you're interested in?"
"I literally just told you a story about how I made millions effortlessly."
She shrugged, "Yeah. But you're already a millionaire. So it's old news. But you went on an actual date. Now that's gossip. I want to hear it." "Well, I'm not telling you," I retorted playfully.
The three of us talked for quite some time. Before I realized it, I had fallen asleep, so did the two girls. Vader and Ace also joined in after their adventure in the snow, and they snuggled with us too on the small bed.
General POV.
"Shit, I forgot to find an on-site foreman," Edward mumbled in his sleep.
Grandma Jules stealthily walked into the room and checked on Edward's temperature.
She smiled and said, "His fever is gone." Watching her grandchildren sleep together on the same bed made her smile softly.
"Just like when they were young,"
she mumbled to herself before giving all three of them a kiss on their forehead.
Grandpa Sam was waiting for her in the living room and asked, "How is he doing?" "He's fine now.
But that doesn't mean you can wake him up early tomorrow to work,"
Jules said playfully as she sat next to Sam. "Amy and Maggie slept in his room too?" Sam asked in confusion. Jules grinned widely and said, "Remember when Edward was 4 years old, and he had a fever?
Maggie and Amy wouldn't leave his side and cried so hard for us to let them sleep with him."
"Yeah, I remember."
"And then they fight each other again immediately after he feels better."
Sam chuckled as he lost himself in the memories.
"It was only for 5 seconds before he got up and said to Jules, 'Well, if he can walk, then he can work.
Don't wake him up.'"
Jules replied in annoyance, shooting glares at her husband, but then she giggled as she knew he was joking around.
The next morning came quickly. Inside Edward's room, a mustached shadow crept to the bed before pulling the blankets away from the trio and two cats. "Rise and shine. Come on, we have work to do," Sam announced mercilessly as the trio whined and groaned from the sudden wake-up call. It's 4 in the morning. Let me sleep, Grandpa. I need my beauty sleep. Maggie complained whiningly.
Edward groaned and said, "Show more pity to the patient."
Amy said, "I don't want to. Wake up,
or there'll be no breakfast for all of you."
Sam threatened.
"Ed, if you still feel sick, sweating it off from an honest day's work will do good for you." Amy subconsciously wrapped her legs around Edward. "Grandpa, let Maggie do Edward's work. She owes him the favor."
"No, let me sleep."
Maggie sobbed dryly as she hugged herself from the cold. Edward grumbled, but as his sleep was already disturbed, he decided to just wake up and follow his grandpa. Amy saw that Edward went willingly and criticized them. "Now we know why Ed works way too much.
He must have gotten Grandpa's genes." Maggie added, "They can't live without working hard." I'm going back to sleep." "Maggie, go pick up some eggs for your grandma," Sam commanded before Maggie could lay down again. Time passed by quickly, and after almost 2 hours of work on the ranch, the family gathered together for breakfast.
Aaron, Jim, and May weren't at the ranch as May and Jim had gone home for the night, and Aaron went to have dinner with his girlfriend's family today.
Maggie initiated the conversation as they were eating breakfast. "Grandpa, Grandma, do you know Ed will act in a movie?"
"Oh, what kind of movie?" Jules asked with interest.
Edward replied, "A lewd one.
I'll be shirtless the whole time."
"What?"
Jules and Sam widened their eyes in shock. Ted looked at Edward with disbelief and said hurriedly, "He's not doing that."
"He's messing with you." Maggie giggled and said, "You should definitely do that, Ed.
Then, you can compete with the competing movie." Edward ignored Maggie and told his grandparents, "It's a rom-com, I'll be playing a hateful character in it."
"So you're just playing yourself?" Amy chided.
"I'm sorry, have you grown yet?
Should we get you a kids' table?" Edward shot back.
Amy glared at him and Edward looked coyly at her.
"See, hateful,"
Amy said as she pointed to Edward while looking at her grandparents.
Edward pretended that he was surprised by the allegations and waved his hands dismissively.
The family burst into laughter, and shortly after that, Edward received a notification on his phone. "Oh, so she released it, huh?" he muttered casually.
"Who did what?" Maggie asked. "My ex. Releasing a diss song about me," Edward replied. "What?"
Amy and Maggie exclaimed at the same time.
Chapter 279, Song About My Ex. General POV.
Thanksgiving Friday, or most likely known as Black Friday. Although the frenzy of mega sales around the country has been getting news attention all morning, Taylor's sudden music video released halted the shopping process of the shoppers for several minutes. The song Love You Hate You that she had played for Edward in the party before, was made into a music video, and the reactions from the song was controversial.
Feeling used, but I'm still missing you, and I can't see the end of this. Just wanna feel your kiss against my lips.
Lily, the leader of several Edward Newgate's fan club, and also the co-leader of the Tayward shippers, gasped in shock as she listened to the lyrics.
"Did they break up?"
she muttered in concern.
TMZ, the entertainment media focusing on celebrity gossip, quickly released an article about Edward and Taylor. The TMZ article headline read as, "Not really a fairy tale?"
The shocking news about the controversial figure Edward Newgate and pop star Taylor Swift. The backlash from the headline was tremendous, but as a parasitical news outlet that survives only based on celebrity gossip, the people at TMZ considered the article as a success despite there being no comments from the parties involved.
Now all this time is passing by, but I still can't seem to tell you why. It hurts me every time I see you, realize how much I need you.
Taylor singing on the backdrop of the ocean, while looking melancholic, made her fans believe that she was the victim in the relationship.
I hate you, I love you, I hate that I love you. Don't want to, but I can't put nobody else above you. I hate you, I love you, I hate that I want you. You
Cece Cooper, daughter of Georgie Cooper, immediately scoffed as she heard the lyric, so she's just delusional then. In the music video, Taylor sat on the passenger seat of a car with the camera facing her from the driver's seat, not showing the figure of the driver as the car rode through a desert.
What about all the times you would pick me up and we'd just drive around until we found a place to stay and waste a day away? We do nothing but it was okay with me.
As Cam and Mitchell watched the music video, Cam nodded in understanding and said, they must have not been able to date properly given their status.
It must have been stressful for them. Mitchell commented snarkily, especially for her. One wrong move and she'll lose everything.
This time, Taylor laid down on her bed alone in a dark room.
They say it's not good to spend all my time thinking about you, it's so late at night, but I can't stop once I start, it's like an avalanche. Thoughts come in and I just wanna hold your hand.
In Annie's apartment, Troy, Annie and Abed watched the music video together. Troy commented, she must have really loved him. That poor girl.
Abed was confused and said, if they were having an on-again relationship, why did he date Annie? Annie was also confused, but then she said, Abed, maybe he just wanted to ease up the pain of heartache? Also, maybe, this is just a maybe, he saw something in me? Troy said dismissively, that's not it.
All alone I watch you watch her, like she's the only girl you've ever seen. You don't care, you never did. You don't give a damn about me. Yeah, all alone I watch you watch her. She's the only thing you ever see. How is it you never notice that you are slowly killing me?
As people listened to the ending of the song, most people had the same question in their mind. Who is that girl Taylor's referring to?
The music video received a lot of attention after it was released, and the song quickly climbed up the Billboard Top 100 songs. The music video was released on MTV, and people has been clamoring to get a response from Edward, or from Taylor, who's been keeping her comments about this matter. In Taylor's apartment, the blonde girl snickered as she thought about her ex's reaction to the song being public. Holding her phone tightly in her hands, she waited for him to call or text her, but it was still silent. Selena, her best friend, suddenly yelped as she read the article on her phone. Turning to Taylor angrily, she said, I told you not to do this.
Why, what happened?
Taylor asked anxiously. Selena showed her phone screen to Taylor, and it showed a paparazzi photo of Selena and Edward at the festival they went to before. They're saying I'm the homewrecker.
I'm the other girl. Selena groaned disdainfully.
Taylor was a bit taken aback, but then Selena yelped again.
Taylor asked disgruntledly, what now? Now it's Hudgens. She's getting flamed online too.
Selena said before she turned to Taylor, you need to rectify this.
Taylor's eyes shook and she replied timidly, I know. I will. Just as soon as he texts me.
Her phone finally rang, and Taylor's eyes lit up. As she saw Edward's name on the text, her heart fluttered. Selena was also interested and stood by Taylor to peek at her screen.
Taylor took a deep breath before opening the text. Her face fell in disbelief as she read Edward's lines. Edward, good job on the music video. It's a great song. Winking face with tongue out emoji. Good job emoji. That's it?
Her hand shook angrily. Taylor threw the phone on the bed and screamed out loud in frustration while ruffling her own hair.
Arg. That bitch. Selena also fell in disbelief when she picked up Taylor's phone and read the text.
Suddenly, she flinched as another text came in, startling her. Taylor immediately stopped screaming and ran to the phone.
Selena read the text for Taylor, he said, expect a return song, in a week? Selena turned to Taylor, and saw she was smirking. Taylor huffed in satisfaction and flipped her hair back with her hand, a week? He really fell off. Or, is it because he needs the song to be perfect?
Before she could finish her sentence, Edward sent another text, and don't think it's because I fell off or anything.
I just have the SATs and the movie is filming next week. I'm just too busy. That bastard.
Taylor grumbled in dissatisfaction and said to Selena, let's go to the company.
It's going to be a song duel. I need to meet Leo and work on the next song. I definitely can't let him win. Clarify it first. I don't want to be his mistress. Selena exclaimed in exasperation as Taylor walked away. Taylor suddenly stopped and said seriously, no. It's better not to comment on anything until I hear his song.
Selena stomped her feet in dissatisfaction and said, but I'm also implicated in this.
Taylor.
Taylor stopped walking, but not from Selena's call. She thought of something and mumbled, wait.
SATs? He's taking the exam, did I release this at a bad time for him?
As she realized Edward's busy schedule with his upcoming world tour, his very limited time to shoot the movie, and now, his SATs, a pang of guilt shot into her heart. She bit her lip and said, damn it. I should have checked with him first.
Selena retorted as she caught up with Taylor, it's too late to regret it now. Now, unmake me as a mistress. Edward POV.
She's not answering, I grumbled as I ended the call on my phone. Standing in front of a tree stump, I held an axe and affixed wood to the stump before cutting it into firewood. The wood cleanly split in two, and I cut it again so that it would split into two more pieces. The firewood needed to be restocked for the winter preparation on the ranch. Usually, my grandfather did this himself, but this year, I volunteered to do it for him. Sitting at the side were Maggie and Amy, gossiping about the song as they watched me cut the firewood.
Who are you calling? Amy asked curiously, thinking that I was trying to reach Taylor.
My Aunt Camila, I replied casually as I split another piece of wood. I wanted to wish her a happy Thanksgiving, but I haven't been able to reach her since yesterday.
I'm getting a bit worried. The work made me sweat for a bit.
A huge wood pile had gathered next to the tree stump, and I kept splitting more wood.
Cutting the wood became therapeutic, and I didn't want to stop anytime soon. It has been an hour and a half since I started this.
Sweat streamed down my face. Despite the snowy Wisconsin air, I took off my jacket and my shirt, leaving me only in my tank top. The muscles on my arms glistened with sweat, and for a moment, Amy and Maggie seemed mesmerized.
Maggie shook her head, a hint of amusement in her eyes, and said, do you really need to take your shirt off? I'm hot. Literally. I replied with a teasing smirk. Amy rolled her eyes before she took out her phone, want me to record this for your Instagram page?
I thought about it for a bit and said, I could post it in my story.
Here, use my phone. Your camera sucks. Hey. I was nice to you. Amy retorted before she walked briskly to grab my phone from me. Be quiet and don't say anything. Ask Robin to use the 4K feature and use ASMR mode. What? Amy looked at me weirdly. I smirked and said, just follow Robin's instructions. Even though she was confused, Amy held the camera obediently.
Her eyes widened as she saw the quality of the camera and the filter Robin placed on it.
What the hell is this?
She shouted in astonishment.
Robin chimed in, please keep your voices down during the recording. I looked at her as I laughed at her reaction before getting back to chop off the wood.
Half an hour later, my grandpa came back to my location and froze for a few seconds when he saw the sheer number of woods I had split. I think we'll need 3 trips to bring this all back, he said as he looked at his hand wagon. I smiled apologetically at him as I loaded the chopped wood into the wagon. During lunch, my Uncle Jim asked my dad, you guys are going back tonight, right? Amy was startled and her spoon stopped before she could eat her food. Tonight? I nodded to her and said, yeah. I had to. But you just came. And you were sick for an entire day. She complained. Since her sister had left Wisconsin and gone to California, Amy was left behind all alone. She had greatly missed the both of us and wanted to spend more time together.
I smiled apologetically and said, I'm sorry. But, why don't you come to California with me?
I'm not able to hang out much over there, but we can still hang out when I get back from work.
Also, I'm going to a birthday party tomorrow. You should come with me too. Her eyes lit up and she looked at her parents quickly. Can I? Uncle Jim shook his head. No, wait. Aunt May looked at him in confusion and asked, why are you hesitating?
I mean, she's going to visit her relatives. And the relative owns a private plane.
Uncle Jim said to Aunt May. You're not going, Amy.
Aunt May sighed in exasperation to Uncle Jim before she said that.
But Mom. Amy whined. I laughed and said, of course, I'm not only inviting Amy. Why don't you all come by? All of you have the days off for another 5 days.
Consider this a short vacation.
Despite Grandma looking excited, Grandpa Sam replied first, I cannot go, Ed.
I need to take care of the ranch. You can hire some helping hands.
And besides, I don't think Uncle Aaron would want to go and leave his girlfriend's back door.
Maggie cupped her hand on my mouth, stopping me from continuing.
My dad looked at me with disbelief before he smiled and said, how about it? It's just a short break, Dad. I'm sure the animals will survive. Grandpa Sam fell into contemplation, but Grandma stood up immediately. You think, Sam? I'm going to pack up.
Then, it won't matter if you take too long to decide. You should go if you want to, Jules. Grandpa Sam said with a smile.
Grandma Jules slapped his shoulder and said, not without you.
Propping up my head with my hand, elbow on the table, I looked at my grandparents with a longing look.
Ah, I want a relationship like this too. Everyone burst into laughter from my remarks.
After Amy used her cute attacks on my grandpa for a while, he finally decided to follow us along to California.
Don't get me wrong.
I'm just curious to see how you've been living in your new home.
Grandpa Sam said with a fake cough. Sundara?
The thought flashed my head for a bit, but I quickly brushed it off.
What about Ace? Grandpa Sam asked.
I replied, I already have a permit to keep her at my house.
Grandpa Sam was startled. His voice shook in an almost imperceptible manner. You know what? It'll be too suffocating for Ace to live in the mansion.
Here, she can hunt coyotes, adventure in the mountains, and help take care of the ranch.
Grandpa, are you by any chance attached to Ace? I asked with a smirk. My grandpa coughed in embarrassment.
I continued, but then, I really only met her for a short time before we decided to adopt her. You were the one taking care of her all this time.
It'll be quite cruel of me to pry her away from you.
Not I guess you saw through me, Ed. Grandpa Sam decided to give up and called for Ace.
Ace and Vader came to the living room. The black-furred jaguar and the black cat were playing together non-stop since we got here. Ace went to Grandpa and rested her head on his knee.
Vader climbed up my pants and shirt before standing on my shoulder. I thought that I only needed to take care of her for you at first.
But, I've come to love this giant cat, Grandpa Sam said while scratching Ace's head.
I smiled in understanding and said, no need to feel guilty, Grandpa.
Ace is your girl. She belongs with you.
I could sense Ace's feeling too as she looked at me. In my long absence, she had become attached to my grandpa too and was reluctant to go with me. Uncle Jim, Aunt May, Amy, Grandma and Grandpa all followed me back to California. It was the first time for them to be in a private plane. Grandma was excited to see everything, but Grandpa just sat on the seat and drank some whiskey. Maggie looked at Amy smugly, acting as if she was looking at a countryside girl, forgetting the fact that she too reacted the same way when she first got into the plane. After a 5-hour flight, we all finally reached California. General POV. Saturday morning, Dunphy's house. An infallible castle was set up in the front lawn, together with a rock climbing wall and a zipline. Phil and Claire's commentary. Phil said, every year, Luke's birthday falls right around Thanksgiving, and so it gets lost in the holiday shuffle. Claire added, one year we forgot completely, and we had to improvise a cake made of stuffing.
Phil waved his hand dismissively, which, by the way, he was fine with.
He's one of those kids, you get him a gift and all he wants to do is play with the box. Claire glanced at Phil for a second. Yeah, one year we actually just got him a box, a really
nice box.
Phil commented sadly, and we made the mistake of putting it in a gift bag.
Claire was also feeling depressed, so he played with the gift bag. Phil said, "We can't get it right."
No, Claire agreed with him. Phil became elated after a while and said, "But this year, we're pulling all of the stops." Claire also grinned and said, "This year, I have a very good job, and Phil has been having a really great year with his real estate sales. We're going to throw the best birthday party a 10-year-old boy ever hoped to be."
Commentary ends.
Luke ran to the front yard and stopped in front of Phil and Claire.
"What time is it?" he asked.
Claire smiled and bent over slightly to meet Luke's eyeline. "Honey, the party won't be starting for another 2 hours.
Your friends will come by at that time." "I don't care about that. I just hope Ed can make it," Luke said innocently before he ran to play.
Phil and Claire looked at each other worriedly.
Phil whispered, "Will he come?"
Claire replied with a whisper too, "I don't know. He has a line reading with the cast of the movie today.
I don't know if he can make it."
While the spouse was talking, a man walked towards them.
"Hello. It looks like a carnival here." Phil immediately turned as he recognized the voice. "Dad. I'm here."
Luke's grandfather, Frank Dunphy, Fred Willard, greeted the duo with open arms.
Claire hugged Frank for a moment before asking, "I thought you cannot make it." "There's no way I'm going to miss my grandson's 10th birthday party. Even your mother is here,"
Frank said as he pointed to his back. In Entertain, the line reading for the movie was held inside a big meeting room, and the entirety of the session was being recorded.
Edward glanced at Emily Blunt, Ryan Gosling, and also Vanessa Hudgens before he read his line.
The purpose of the line reading was to build chemistry with the other actors, and also for the actors to explore their characters more deeply. Edward checked his watch a few times as he continued the line reading.
He thought secretly, "I hope that I can make it." Chapter 280, Fizbo Part 1. Edward POV. I have a question," Vanessa asked as we read our lines.
Wearing a shoulderless shirt and a short skirt, she shyly raised her hands up to avoid disturbing the others who were in heated discussions, especially Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt, who were trying to nail their chemistry for the characters.
Judd Apatow turned to her and smiled, "Yes?
I'm still confused as to why I'm a nurse."
"Isn't that perpetuating the Filipino stereotype?" she asked in a joking manner.
Judd turned to me and called, "Yeah, Edward.
Isn't that perpetuating stereotypes?"
I scoffed at the director before turning to Vanessa. "It is a stereotype.
A good one. We reinforce good stereotypes and avoid bad ones.
Like me so horny for the Asian woman tropes.
Or, do you want something like that?" She raised her hand towards me and grumbled, "No. I'll be a nurse, thank you very much."
As Judd and I chuckled, Judd asked curiously, "I'm still not convinced about this. Are you really able to get George Lucas to allow us to use his set?" I smirked and casually said, "I even negotiated with him to use a scene from Star Wars. Tom Ryder, RG's character, needs some name recognition in the universe if we want to say that he's a big movie star there.
George owes me, so he's letting me use that." Vanessa suggested, he could release some albums too. And not really releasing it, but in that movie. Ryan Gosling heard the suggestion and chuckled, "That'll be pretty fun."
Paige and Judd took note of the suggestions before Judd said, "Although it's really in his character to do that, we don't think that his brother will let him." As the brother character was my character, I knew him best, so I said, "He'll stop it if it doesn't get up to standard."
Judd suddenly got an idea and became excited. "Ooh."
He could have made some videos behind his brother's back, but was stopped by Colt, the brother,
before it could be released, just like his highly sensual homoerotic film.
Vanessa was astonished when she heard the last sentence.
"Wait, did I miss something?"
She began checking back the script with an excited expression.
I only just read my part," she added shyly.
Rolling my eyes at Vanessa, I rubbed my chin and said, it could be a point of conversation between him and Jody Moreno, Emily Blunt. That's when we could start to change people's perspective on him. Turns out, there's more to this guy than a narcissistic prick after all. And we can use the song to market the movie when it hits theaters.
Wait, is this really happening?
Ryan asked with disbelief as he looked at me, his lips curled upwards in excitement.
I joked, congrats. You're now a singer too. But we still need to have specifics. Will he be in a boy band? Emo band? Country? Metal? Honestly, I'd really love to see you sing in an emo band. Emily interjected teasingly, I'd really like for it to be heavy metal.
Judd laughed and said, boy band, sounds kinda good.
But, it'll be better if the song can be both funny and good. It doesn't even have to be a masterpiece.
As long as it fits the theme of the story.
I rubbed my chin for a while as I thought about it. I may be able to make 1 or 2 songs today. Today? Emily suddenly widened her eyes and stood up.
As everyone turned towards her in shock, I nodded in confusion and replied casually, Wyatt?
Today, so we can plan out the other things. I mean, if I have an instrument, I could give you guys a sample.
Judd, Paige and Vanessa stood up and volunteered at the same time, I'll get the guitar.
Wait. I stopped them immediately. I have a birthday party to go to now.
I tried to explain, but Judd had already rushed off to get the guitar. Wait here, Ed.
Don't leave. You have a birthday party? Ryan asked after Judd left. I turned towards him and said, yeah, wanna come? Vanessa interjected quickly, it's a kid's 10th birthday party. Oh.
Ryan slightly widened his eyes. I think I'll just stay here and familiarize myself with the script.
Your loss. Emily? I turned to the actress. She smiled softly and said, I'm also going to study the script. Ouch. Hudgens mocked playfully before she laughed.
I smirked devilishly and said, I guess you're excited to start your 10 hours long choreo practice today. Flinching slightly, Hudgens' eyes shook and she said, wait.
No. Judd ran back to the meeting room with a guitar.
As he gave it to me, he panted heavily, even holding his back as he tried to catch his breath.
I'm going to sit.
Holding the guitar properly, I said, okay, the song starts like this. Everyone held their voices as they looked at me.
General POV. Mitch and Cam's house. Phil came by to borrow some stuff for the party.
He needed to get back in time to meet the reptilian party higher representative that would be coming over to the house soon.
See you in a few hours,
Mitchell said with a smile. Phil checked the cord for the machine as he stood at the front door. Mitchell was in front of him, and Cam was in the kitchen.
Yeah. Thanks again for the karaoke machine. Phil smiled innocently. I'll get it back to you right after the party. He promised.
That'd be great.
Cam replied.
Mitchell whispered to Phil without Cam realizing it, please don't.
I beg you. Don't bring it back. Okay.
Phil nodded as he dodged the request.
Hey, Phil. You getting a clown for today? Cam asked suddenly as he placed down his washed plate.
Phil's face paled instantly. His eyes were full of fear.
He replied with a shaky voice, oh, no. Luke's not much of a clown fan. Really? Cam asked with a slight disbelief. Yeah. He never liked M. Phil answered seriously. Has he ever seen a good one? Cam asked again. Has anyone?
Phil replied dodgingly, and he took a step back to exit the door in a hurry.
So anyway, thanks again,
Phil said before he rushed out of the house.
Okay.
Yep.
See you later,
Mitchell replied casually as he closed the door before going to sit at the sofa.
Cam stomped into the living room, following Mitchell before he could get there. No clown? No clown? Cam asked incredulously. Let it go.
Mitchell sighed wearily as he sat down on the sofa, grabbed his teacup and read the screen of his laptop.
Who throws a party without a clown? Cam complained.
Mitchell took a sip of his tea before replying sarcastically, since the late 30s, I'd say most people.
Cam contemplated before asking, you know what, we haven't gotten Luke a present yet. Maybe a clown could be our present.
Mitchell quickly curbed his excitement, Cameron.
If Phil and Claire
wanted to get Luke a clown, they would've.
This is not our party. Cam's face fell, but
This is not our party.
Mitchell clarified again. But I just fine.
What would you suggest we get him then,
Cam asked in defeat.
Mitchell turned to Cam with a smirk and said, wow, I really thought you were going to fight me in this.
I guess being thrown into a pool does that to you.
Cam got annoyed and said, that's a class act, everything was planned.
Anyways, what should we get Luke?
Get him a gift card.
Mitchell replied dismissively. A gift card? Cam couldn't believe his ears.
Yeah. Mitchell nodded as he sipped his tea and did his work casually.
Cam looked at Mitchell with disbelief and pity. Who hurt you?
Mitchell gave a side-eye to Cam before continuing his work. As he felt he was getting judged there, he stood up and said, I'm going to go shop for Luke's present.
Do you want to come with me?
Cam shook his head and said, Lily had just fallen asleep, I think I'll sit this one out.
You had to do this without me.
All right. Mitchell agreed easily before he walked to the door. Before he left, Cam shouted, and don't buy Luke a gift card. Mitchell paused for a bit before he disappeared.
Dunphy's house, on the streets.
Phil stood in front of a van with safari decorations on its exterior. A young woman in her 20s, with a tattoo on her neck, wearing a safari outfit, stood in confrontation with Phil as she tried to convince him to hire her for the party.
For something a little extra special, I also bring along a scorpion named Stinger.
He's a real showstopper.
He's got this amazing glow-in-the-dark exoskeleton, and he's super docile.
Tanya said with a smile, slightly sweating from her forehead. Phil shook his head resolutely, no. I want the most dangerous reptile you've got. Inside his mind, Phil was imagining a reptilian show straight out of a fantasy novel, and he didn't even realize how wrong his imagination was.
Tanya said quickly, I have an iguana that eats crickets.
Phil quickly retorted, that'd be scary if it was a birthday party for crickets. He pointed at the girl, seriously, Jungle Tanya, I need you to step it up a notch.
Is there anything that scares the cocoa out of you? Paying my rent this month? Tanya mumbled.
What was that?
Phil asked in confusion.
She shook her head and got back to the conversation, not really.
I do have a bearded dragon. Phil became excited, ooh. Does it dash?
No, it does not breathe fire.
Tanya interjected with a disappointed look. Phil exclaimed in frustration, well, then we're back to square one, aren't we?
Despite all the inquiry, Phil finally hired Tanya for the party, which made her break out into a huge smile.
She hopped slightly, yes.
Phil showed a fatherly smile and said, all right, I'm taking a chance with you.
So give them all a great performance. You can set up your stage in the living room.
Thank you. Tanya said quickly, fearing that Phil would change his mind and turn to the reptiles, okay you guys.
We have a job to do. We're going to give Luke the best show ever.
One green lizard looked at her while the rest didn't even bother to move. Phil was busy finalizing the party rental details when Claire emerged from the back of their car, laden with party favor supplies. As she crossed the front yard, Haley and Alex intercepted her in the path, their faces a mix of annoyance and amusement. Haley, squinting against the sun, grumbled and exposed, Mom.
Alex invited his boyfriend to the party without even asking you first. Alex, taken aback, shot back, what? You did that all the time.
Alex glanced at Claire's eyes warily, and cursed Haley inside her heart at the same time. Claire sighed, her voice patient but firm. Alex, I'm not going to say who you can or cannot invite to your own party. But, with all the awesome stuff we've got here, I guess you had to call him over to play, huh? Feeling pretty proud of herself for the awesome party she had planned out, Claire even decided to try out some of the games herself.
Alex sighed in relief and said, yes. That's right. He's just coming over to play.
Haley scoffed, her tone dripping with sarcasm. Yeah, she invited him over to play with her tongue. Alex, defensive, blurted out, we're not going to make out.
Haley's laughter was a mixture of amusement and mockery.
Everyone knows that's why you invited him.
Mom and Dad will be busy with the party, so it's the perfect opportunity to sneak into your room and have some fun.
Haley's eyes widened as she realized she'd gone too far when she met Claire's flabbergasted gaze.
Claire and Alex stared at her, a mixture of bewilderment and apprehension on their faces.
Claire, her voice laced with anxiety, pressed, Haley.
Did you use the chance to sneak out your ex-boyfriends to your room?
Haley, scrambling to deflect the accusation, blurted out, What?
No. I heard it from Tara.
Yes, from Tara. She scurried away, leaving Claire and Alex staring after her. Claire was dumbfounded, and then she said, Alex, Phineas can come, but he's not to step even 1 foot inside the house.
Alex sighed and said, that's fine.
We still have the garage.
What? Claire panicked and turned to Alex quickly. Alex giggled and said, it's a joke.
Luke ran to the duo, heavily sweating from all of his playing around. Claire put down her bags and held Luke by his shoulder. Oh honey. I think you need to take a shower and change your clothes.
The guests will arrive soon.
Luke smiled and said, but I'm still going to play when they come. I'll take a shower for nothing if I do it now.
Is Edward here yet? He promised to come.
Claire was a bit taken aback, but Alex giggled and said, he'll definitely come if he says he's coming. There's no way he's going to miss this. But, he might hide and come incognito to avoid trouble. I'll tell him to text me when he's here. Luke nodded, and before he could run away again, Claire held her shoulders tightly and said, go take a shower and change your clothes.
Now.
But.
Now. Claire said assertively and firmly. Luke groaned and obediently went inside the house.
I'm taking a shower, but I'm not going to use soap. He shouted rebelliously. Alex chuckled at Luke's misery, but her smile faded when Claire said, pick up the bags. You're helping me at the art and crafts table.
What? Alex was taken aback, but did it anyway, even though she was complaining, who sets up an art and crafts table at a party?
Behind Alex and Claire, a crew of people were inflating a bouncy castle, and another team was setting up a zipline for the kids.
Back to Cam and Mitch's house.
Standing in front of the bathroom mirror, Cam picked up the white paint and contemplated hard as he looked at himself.
I couldn't get Luke out of my mind. Cam monologues inside his mind.
I know I made a promise to Mitchell, but some things are bigger than promises.
Fizbo would be at that party.
He opened the paint lid and dipped his fingers inside the paint.
Then,
he smeared it underneath his eyes.
Cam inhaled sharply and greeted his reflection, hello, old friend. Mitch finally returned after an hour.
As he opened the door, he said, I'm home. I got Luke a video game, but it's about math. So I guess we're those kind of uncles, Cam. Mitchell froze in his steps as he saw a clown walking towards him.
Don't be mad. Fizbo, Cam's clown alter ego, held his hands up high to appease Mitch. Cam, I thought we discussed this.
Mitchell said in disappointment.
We did. But I started thinking. And this isn't about you or me. This is about a little boy who deserves some happiness. Cam tried to defend his actions. And he's gonna get that from his weird gay clown uncle?
Mitchell said sarcastically.
Cam got a bit angry and said defensively, Fizbo is not gay. He's asexual.
Oh.
Mitchell exclaimed with disbelief. He couldn't even look straight at Cam. Cam added, he's an innocent whose only drive is to bring people joy and laughter. And balloon animals. He's the least sexual being on Earth. Oh, okay. Well, at least we agree on something. Mitchell insulted. Yeah.
Cam breathed in relief, but as he thought back on what Mitchell said, he exclaimed in realization, oh. Mitchell shook his head in disappointment before he said helplessly, well, I don't think I can make you change.
So I'll pick up Lily and then we'll go. Entertain company building, meeting room. So, is that song good enough for the movie? Edward asked with a slight anxiousness in his voice.
As the time got closer, he couldn't even sit still as he played the song for the director.
Judd Apatow rubbed his chin as he thought about it. Well. Edward stood up abruptly and said, you can take your time to think about it. Discuss it with the others too. I actually have to go now if I want to make it to the party. All right. Go. Judd waved his hand helplessly. Edward smiled and said, I'll make sure to bring you a slice of cake. If the cake is good, then yes. If it's meh, then no. Judd responded. Edward finally left the meeting room in a hurry. He rushed to Amy, who was hanging out with Maggie at the pantry, and asked them, did you guys pick up what I asked? Maggie nodded and smiled, yeah. It's inside the car. Amy massaged her shoulder and said, you need to pay us back more. We'll negotiate in the car. Edward stopped the conversation quickly. There's going to be a traffic jam at the hour. I'll be running late if we continue talking here. Let's go. Wait, me too?
Maggie widened her eyes as Edward grabbed both her and Amy's wrist before pulling them to come with him.
Of course, who's going to hang out with Amy when I'm climbing the rock wall? Edward teased. Amy nodded in agreement, yeah, Maggie. It's common sense. It's common sense, Maggie. Edward joined in to tease. Maggie rolled her eyes and gave up, fine. I'll go to the stupid party.
Suddenly, Edward stopped and released Maggie's hand.
He got a text message, and as he checked the content, he said, you know what? You don't have to go if you don't want to. My other friends will be there so Amy can hang out with us. Edward left Maggie's behind and walked away with Amy.
Maggie blinked her eyes twice as she stood there motionlessly.
Then, she exclaimed, just like that, I'm thrown away? But, I actually want to go.
She whined, but Edward was already gone.
Amy and Edward left hurriedly.
Everyone was already at the party by the time he started his journey. However, a mile away from the Dunphys' house, Edward suddenly stopped the car.
Amy turned to him in confusion, what are you doing? Edward struggled as he squeezed into the back seat from the driver's seat. Amy pushed his legs away angrily as it almost hit her face, HOI. Watch it. Amy, close your eyes. I'm going to be nude here.
I'll change my clothes for a sec, Edward said as he unbuttoned his shirt, revealing his bare, muscular torso. Amy let out a startled yelp as she caught a glimpse of Edward in the rearview mirror. Her cheeks flushed, and she quickly covered her eyes with her hands, turning her head forward inside the car.
Can't you do that when we're actually there? She grumbled, her voice muffled by her hand. Edward chuckled, a mischievous glint in his eyes. No can do, my dear. Relax, I can change my clothes fast enough.
Amy waited, humming along to the radio, her eyes still closed. A moment later, Edward returned to the driver's seat, prompting her to remove her hand. Her eyes widened in disbelief as she took in Edward's attire.
What are you even wearing?
She exclaimed, her voice laced with confusion. Edward, sporting a top hat, a masquerade ball mask, a bright blue jacket, and white gloves, beamed at her. I'm a magician, he declared, his voice a playful baritone. He tossed a handful of confetti in her direction, the colorful bits raining down on her head. Amy groaned, her annoyance evident, and she grumbled in disappointment, I can't believe I ever thought you were cool. That wraps up this part of What If Karmic Gacha System in Modern Family World.
Thanks so much for listening.
As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned.
Quick reminder. The series What If Fusion Deck User in a different Yu-Gi-Oh! GX will be going on hold soon, since we're nearly at the end of the story. So now,
I need your help picking the next project for the channel. I'm currently deciding between these 3 fanfics. What if creating the strongest Strawhat crew by reading manga? What if Reincarnated in Bleach as Toshiro Hitsugaya? What if Reincarnated in Marvel as a gamer? Please vote in the poll and let me know which story you'd like to see next. I'll take the top pick and start working on that series next. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.